Welcome. Thank you guys for coming out today, everybody. If you have a chance, if you didn't, I think most people did, but if you can please sign up on Team Unify. We'll leave it open for people to go in there and just click that you attended. It's just so we can start tracking how many people are interested in this topic. We can start getting information on how and when we can put this information back out there again. So, come on. So the last couple times I've done this talk, I keep thinking I can do it in 20 minutes, and an hour later I'm still standing here. So I am going to try to move fast in order to get through everything, so we have some time for questions at the end. If you don't get a question answered, or if you think of something when you head home, you're welcome to email me. I'll send out an email to the Team Unify, the list of people that are signed up, and if you need it from your lead coach, they'll be happy to give it to you. I'm Coach Peter Vierhoff, coach of the South Site, for some of you that don't know me. Coach Dave Cook's going to jump in here on a couple items as well. And our other lead coaches, Coach Ed, Coach Sarah, are always willing to help, and if one of us doesn't know an answer, we do a good job of bouncing that to the next person until we get something figured out. So if it's something specific to you, or specific to something you've heard, please make sure you ask. Our staff is willing and able to help you with questions about the college process. We don't want you to feel like you have to go through that process without any information or alone. Okay? We really want to make sure we are a resource for you. Okay? And no matter what level you want to swim at or what your goals are, we want to make sure we're helping you through the process. So please use your coaches, your senior coaches, for this. If we don't have an answer, or we haven't heard of that question before, because it does occur almost every year, there's a new question we haven't heard of, we'll bounce it around, or we'll call one of the coaches that are at this meet, or somebody that we know in our coaching history, and get an answer for you. So please use us as a resource. So we got 3 sections we're going to go through today. I'm going to run through a timeline of kind of what the college search process looks like, and then we're going to talk a little bit about trying to find a proper fit and some helpful hints on communicating. Okay, these are kind of the big nuts and bolts topics. There's obviously a lot of individual pieces to this process, and before we get started at all, I just want to tell you right now, I have yet to meet one person that the college search process went like they thought it was going to go when they started it. I have yet to meet one person that it goes exactly that way. Okay? This is always going to be a dynamic process. There's going to be changes along the way. Different things are going to come into play. Different things are going to fall out of range that you thought they were in. You're going to get different responses from people you thought were going to go a different way. It's really important to remember not to be discouraged by that. And I think there's 2 things that are really important to remember about the total process. 1, control the things you can control. Right? You can communicate. You can be a great ambassador. You can put yourself out there. You can follow up with people. Okay? You can do the work in the pool. You can do the work as just being a great student athlete. You can do the work in the classroom. Control those things first. Okay? Don't think that you can magically have a phone call and get what you want out of something if you're not taking care of what you need to take care of in the classroom. At the end of the day, colleges want student athletes that love to swim. Okay? They love to push themselves. They love to be good in the classroom. You can do those things. That's the kind of person they're looking for. So take care of that first, and the other pieces will fall into place. The second thing I want to tell everybody, I firmly believe this, there is not one perfect fit. Okay? There is not one perfect fit in a university or a college for every student that's here. There's probably about 5 or 6 perfect fits out there, and it has more to do with what you do when you get on campus than it does about which college it is. Okay? There are great, fantastic people that go to Ivy League schools, and they go to class, and they come out, and they get a degree, and that's great. And there are people that go to a public university in the state, or maybe even South Carolina or Tennessee, and they go to the honors college there, and they do a special internship, and maybe they get into a doctorate program there. And at the end of the day, the experiences are different, and they may lead to different pathways, and one may help in certain ways and one may help in another, but not one is not necessarily better or worse than another. Just remember, there's not one perfect fit, and you're not trying to go to one place. You're trying to find the best fit for you. You can show up to that campus and be willing to dig in, be engaged in the classroom, the pool, or however you're going to do it. Okay? So remember, you're not trying, don't get hung up on one place. Think about the options out there, and try to remember that it's really more about what happens when you arrive on campus than it is about selecting the school when you get there. So I'm going to run through this, basically a timeline starting in about 8th or 9th grade, and this is kind of our suggested guideline for you. There's a lot of media out there about what happens in the college process, a lot of talk about people being signed or recruits committing. One word of caution, okay? Again, their journey is very different than everybody else's, and you do not get the full story when you read on SwimSwam that somebody committed. You know, there's a couple commits out there I know of right now that person was committed when they were 8 years old. They wanted to go to that school. Didn't matter how fast they went. They may not have got a scholarship at all. They just really wanted to go to Tennessee or to, you know, Villanova or whatever it was, and it didn't matter. They're just excited to get that commitment online. But you see that and you go, oh my gosh, juniors are committing. I got to hurry up and do this. But you have no idea what the story is behind that person and what's going on. So be careful what you read. Be careful what you read into. Okay. Be sure to follow your own process and take care of that. As we go through this timeline, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. So 8th and 9th grade, so you're finishing up middle school, you're maybe starting in high school. It's really important. Again, this is where probably the most important thing at this point is start off with a great GPA. Okay? The competitive swimming world produces great students. Okay? We are very fortunate to be in a sport that almost everybody that's sitting in this building at this meet, a lot of the people that are at buildings and the meets you go to are fantastic students. Okay? Give yourself the advantage of having great grades. Okay? Just start your freshman year in high school. Make sure you start off with that great GPA then, and keep your head down and make sure you're valuing that time in the classroom. You're doing what you need to do to keep your GPA up. You don't want to get to the senior year or junior year and have a 3.1 or even a 3.2 or a 2.8, and you could have had a 4.0. Now again, if you're taking IB classes and 3.2 is the best you're capable of, absolutely that's awesome. Okay? We don't want to say that's any less or not, but just be aware that it's a very highly competitive piece and grades do matter. Okay? So start right away with great grades. Also, in terms of swimming, your practice habits and your engagement should reflect the college goals that you have. If you want to swim at a top 10 Division I school, I highly recommend you act like a top 10 Division I athlete. Okay? You can get a great example of what some of that looks like at this meet. Okay? If you want to swim in college and you want to be invested at Division III level or Division II level, there are slightly different commitments to that, but the engagement is still there. The practice requirements are still there. Okay? The idea that you have to excel in the classroom and in the pool is still there. Okay? So no matter what level it is, there's an expectation of how you're going to handle that as you go into, as you start this. And I want you to make sure that your practice habits in the pool, how you treat your teammates, how you treat your coaches, your interest in learning and how hard you want to work reflect where you want to go. Okay? So that should sync up a little bit. If it's not, we'll tell you, we'll help you out. We'll help. If you have a question about that, ask a coach. Okay? Also, 8th and 9th grade, you want to start with kind of figuring out what fits you. Okay? You're going to start going to high school classes that are pretty general. Okay? Do you do really well in a classroom with 40 or 50 people? Do you like that one class you have that has 12 people in it? You know, do you do really good with numbers? Are you much better with reading things? You start to identify what your strengths are. Start to figure out what really suits you. You do not have to have a career picked out. The #1 major for freshmen is undecided in college. Okay, there's a reason for that. You know, you're 17 or 18 years old. You probably don't need to be deciding absolutely definitively what you're going to do the rest of your life at 17 years old. Okay, but you can start figuring out what your strengths are. Pay attention to the classroom. What are the classes you gravitate towards? What are the things that come easier to you? What are the things that are really difficult for you? Okay, start to pay attention to that kind of stuff and know what makes a good fit for you. Is a big group good? A smaller group good? Do you like having that social environment around you? Do you need time to study alone? What are those things that really help you thrive in the classroom and in the pool? Okay? So that's kind of just getting started, right? You're starting to identify. Now, fortunately for a lot of you, you'll be able to take some trips. You'll be able to go on some swimming trips where you go into college campuses. You can start looking at what college looks like. I think the hardest thing, if I remember back to this process, when you're in 8th and 9th grade, college is this big gray cloud. You kind of go there. you don't really know what you're going to do after that, right? You just go to college. You know, it's just collection of buildings. People kind of walk around, they lay in the grass, and you're really not sure what college is, right? It's kind of hard to put what that is around it. So if you get a chance, kids, ask your parents or your parents' friends or your friends that are in college, or somebody has an older brother or sister in college. It's okay to ask the question, what is college? You know, what does a day look like? What do you do? You know, how does that look? It's, you know, you're doing 15 hours of class a week on average. So that's a pretty long week for 15 hours of sitting in the classroom. You have a lot of other time you got to do things. If you're swimming, you might be using 20 hours of that to go to swim practice. So there's 35 hours of something during the week, and you got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to study. Okay, ask people what college is like for them. They'll tell you, I have a group meeting every Thursday at 2. We meet in the library and we study for 2 hours. You know, I go to my class and then we go to the professor's office afterwards and we ask questions. So that's what college is. At 8th and 9th grade, start to ask a question to help you understand what the big gray cloud of college is like. Your parents' friends are probably some of the best resources for that. Okay? Ask around. They know somebody that can help give you that answer. Moving on to 10th grade. What options are out there? Okay? This is where you kind of want to start to build on that idea of what college is like. You want to learn the college language, right? What is a liberal arts school? What is a technology school? What's a farm grant school? What's a small school, a private school, a public school? Okay? What does a school that has a high academic tuition rate mean? What does it mean if it's a state school? Okay? What is the language you're kind of getting? Start to know what your options are. Those big vocabulary terms that are out there. Start to do the research and understand the difference. You know, Duke, a private school, NC State, UNC, or public school. Funded differently, scholarship works differently. Okay? You need to know the differences. So that way when you run into that search process, you start making your list, you start to understand, okay, I've got 3 schools over here in this category, we got 5 over here in this category. Athletically, you've got different divisions out there. Division 1, 2, 3, you've got NAIA, you got junior colleges. You got a lot of other options besides UNC, NC State, and some of these others that are more common or you hear about on the news per se. Also, you want to start to understand the recruiting rules and, more importantly, the admissions process. By far and away, the number of student athletes in college go through regular admissions than get any kind of special waiver. Right? I take that back. Every student athlete has to go through admissions. Very few get maybe a nod that, hey, you turn your admission packet in early, you're going to get in. Maybe at this school, the admissions process, you know, if you're a TAP student athlete, you're going to get admitted there early or whatever it might be. But everybody has to do the admissions process. Okay? And even if you've got 1 or 2 schools and you're ready to commit to that or whatever it is at that point, you still have to apply, and I would highly recommend to apply to more than 1 school. There's a Common App system out there where you kind of fill out one set of information, and that goes to several universities. But you need to start researching when you start looking at a college. Start to understand what the admissions process looks like. You need essays. Some schools need letter of recommendation. You're going to need transcripts. Understand when you need test scores, how to send them in. Okay, when you take the SAT, you can put a code in there online. It'll send it directly to a school or to the NCAA. Okay, you need to know how that process works. So as your 10th grade year, your sophomore year, you want to kind of get prepared for that. So the last thing you want to do is get all the way down to, hey, I've got 3 schools I really want to go to, and you realize you missed an early admissions application deadline that may have made the difference for you. Okay, make sure you know early what the admissions process looks like and how to navigate that. One of the resources often underutilized, most colleges have an admissions department. It's not connected to athletics. It's almost separate from the university. It's literally a department that has a bunch of counselors that are assigned to either geographic locations or either numbers in or letters in the alphabet that are designed to help people go through the admissions process. You can call that number. Usually they're listed on their website somewhere. You can call the admissions office. You can set up a tour. You can ask random questions. Hey, how much academic aid do you have available at this school? You can ask those questions there. Their job is to help people get into the college, okay, or the university. They will give you a really good answer, and sometimes they have a better answer than the athletic department or the coach has based on the question you're asking. So please use that as a resource. You're going through websites, look up the admission department, call the number, find a counselor, get their name, see if you can exchange emails with them. They will help guide you through some of those questions. How do I fill out financial aid forms? When do I have to have them in? You know, when's the final deadline for this? They'll help walk you through that. You want to make a big list your 10th grade year. So 15 to 18 schools, that's not a hard number, it's just kind of a suggestion. Okay, some big schools, some small schools, and not just ones that you know you like. You know, hey, I like the football team here and I like the basketball team here. Add some ones that you're curious about, maybe you haven't heard of. Maybe your parents have a suggestion that they've heard of, or your friends have a suggestion they heard of they think would be really good. Okay, tap into that. Make a list of schools that has some on there that maybe you haven't heard of it, maybe you don't know about it, maybe you're not even sure you like it, but you need to have some other schools on there aside from the ones that you're really familiar with. You know, along with that, you want to kind of start your research, maybe visit a place or two. Okay, if you're driving a vacation, you're going through Clemson, stop and see the campus. Okay, do the admissions tour. Okay, that sophomore year, it's okay to start reaching out. It's okay to visit, strictly from a school standpoint, not really an athletic standpoint. They can't talk to you yet. Okay, NCAA coaches cannot speak with something. They can talk cordially on campus. They can say hi when you're on campus. They can talk about the school. They can't recruit you, and most will probably say, hey, I really appreciate you stopping by. I can't really do too much. Can't say too much with you. I'd love to see you at our pool, and that's about all I can say. Some will be able to talk to you more. Just depends on their compliance department. But sophomore year, you just don't expect a big response from a college coach on campus. But you can take the tour. You can ask questions about the facility. You can ask questions to the admission department. You get an idea of what the school is like. Let's see. So really that January through August of your 10th grade, so your second half is when you're trying to make that list, and make sure by the end of that 10th grade year you kind of have an idea. And this is where, when you get to March, which is college championship season, this would be a great year for you to start paying attention to swimming conference results and NCAA championship results. Okay, this is very important. This is going to tie into our proper fit here in a second. Okay, where you fit in a school athletically has a lot to do with how that school competes at their conference and at the NCAA level. There's 3 different divisions. There's NAIA, okay, for NCAA level. You can look up each of those schools. CollegeSwimming.com is a great resource. If you go to college rankings at the top, you can filter by division, including NAIA or private schools or junior colleges. You can see what those schools are. Every year, SwimSwam and College Swimming put out like conference championship pages. You can go browse through the website. They'll have write-ups. They'll talk about it. And don't just look at the SEC one. We have probably one of the most exciting conference meets swum in this pool every year right here in February, the Bluegrass Mountain Conference with Queens, Wingate. You got Johns Hopkins, Division III. You've got 2 or 3 other schools that come in here, Lenoir-Rhyne, Carson Newman. A couple others come over here and they compete right here. It's a fantastic meet, highly competitive, really good racing. It's pretty fast. You get a chance to come over and watch that, I highly recommend it. Okay, it gives you an idea what that conference meet setting is like. It'll show you what it takes to score. Okay, look at what those times are that are making it back to the scoring position. Okay, again, we're going to cover this in proper fit, but just to give you a hint, I've had a lot of people come up and say, well, you know, I looked up this school and I'm 5th on their depth chart in the 53. Well, look how many people they took to conference. They only took 3. Okay, the 4th and the 5th person didn't travel on the team. Okay, you're not going to be on the travel squad if you think you're the 5th person right now. Now, if you're scoring points in some of these other conference or other events, maybe you're going to get a shot like that. But that's what you need to look at, not the depth chart of the school or the school records or the top 10 times for the year. That'll give you an idea if you were competitive that year. But conference results and NCAA results will really help you out there. I recommend putting up a profile on collegeswimming.com. It's pretty easy to do. It's not an exhaustive resource by any means. College coaches use their own database, their own processes to research student athletes. Some use collegeswimming.com. Some use, their own software they have. Some use a big Excel spreadsheet. Some people have a whiteboard in an office somewhere. They put people's names on it. It's all different. There is not one method that coaches use to gather information about student athletes. Usually use a couple. An easy one to use is collegeswimming.com. It's just easy to upload your time. You can send a link to your page. You can update it there, and it's an easy way to provide information. Okay. Last thing, probably one of the most important, is you want to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. If you're going to swim in Division 1, 2, or 3, the NCAA would like to make sure you're not a 28-year-old from Lithuania that's going to skew the tables at their conference, their NCAA championship. Okay? There's a process you have to go through to be an NCAA athlete. It's about $65 to open up an account, I think. I don't know if it's changed. But basically what you do is you go in there, you have to put in all your information, you answer a series of questions to determine if you're an amateur athlete or not. There are some confusing questions. Every year I get a screenshot of questions from the swimmers filling it out. There's things that say, are you wearing sponsored apparel at your meets or competitions? Yes, you guys, as a team, we are sponsored by Speedo. Speedo is not paying your student athletes sitting right here to wear their gear. Okay, they sponsor our team as a whole. They are not paying you to wear their gear. So if you have a question on how to answer those questions, shoot a screenshot to your coach. Let us help you out. They're not trying to hurt anybody. You're not going to I haven't heard of anybody that's filled out something wrong and they were banned from competition.